Hello, my name's James Freeman. I'm the owner and director of the James Freeman Gallery in London, and I'd like to speak to you about our current online-only exhibition, Splendid Isolation, which is a collection of new caravan paintings by the Scottish artist Andrew McIntosh. This is an exhibition we initially didn't have planned, but given that everything's changed so rapidly, and we're all of a sudden, most of us, stuck in lockdown at home, um, these paintings suddenly gained an extra bit of poignancy and became more relevant. Um, Now, they're a collection of caravans, and caravan is a motif that Andrew has played with for many years in his work. He is originally from the Highlands of Scotland. He's a self-taught painter, and he started out painting Highland landscapes, that very grand, rugged, grandiose scenes. And several years ago, quite a few years ago now actually, he moved to London to develop his practice. And one of the key developments was that he started playing around with structures in these landscapes. Uh, Often structures you might not expect, or something quite surreal or incongruous. So um, he started with buildings that you might find either gatehouses, like the entrance into a big Scottish estate, or an old lunatic asylum out in the middle of a desolate field. And from these he'd remove a wall, a panel, and then within you would find something completely that didn't belong there at all. So perhaps in the example of a lunatic asylum, there'd be a room with a Francis Bacon triptych hanging inside. So he started playing around with this idea, and part of that, the idea of the caravan became very important, because caravans crop up in the most unlikely of places. If you think you go to the more, you might travel to some of the more far-flung and desolate places or unvisited places in the country, you'll probably find a caravan somewhere. They're really sturdy, hardy little things that allow us, humans, to be intrepid and to take on rather unwelcoming conditions and find a way of managing it and surviving in it. And this idea of survivalism, I think, is really why this collection of work became important right now in the conditions that we're in, where we're surrounded by, apart from the enormous uncertainty and upheaval and change, but also the health threats both to us and to all of our friends and family. It's very disconcerting times, and it's very hard to know a lot of the time. The initial shock is then followed by a lot of uncertainty while we establish new routines. And this motif of the caravan, this little, humble little structure that crops up in the most challenging and hostile of environments as a means for human beings to say, no, we can deal with this. I'll live here. I'll manage this. I think that's rather encouraging, and that's why we brought this show together and brought it forward right now, which is March 2020. So if you look at the group of caravan paintings, there's several small pieces, a number of them, I think beautifully, they're painted in camouflage, almost like they were combat fatigues. So this idea of it being a kind of a survivalist tool is really brought through, and you'll find the caravan sitting there in a field or on the edge of a forest. There's also other caravans. There's a pair of small caravan paintings covered in snow, sitting out in a snow landscape. Again, difficult conditions, but finding a way through it all the same. And the large piece that we have, which I think is spectacular, and the title as well, I Know We Can Make It, utterly of this moment, is this beautifully painted camouflaged caravan in a forest scene. And inside you have this glowing. Now, this is something that links back to Andrew's previous work. He's used the celestial phenomena like sunrises, sunsets, comets, many times before, when he's removed a panel or removed a section of a wall from one of his structures, and then you find this otherworldly phenomena on the other side. It's like an imaginary portal to transport you somewhere else. But here, and with all of this collection, that wall hasn't been removed. All we have is just the hint of it, and inside of this painting you have the glowing inside of the caravan. And you have to, it's less obvious for us. We have to really make the imaginative leap, and we have to do the imaginative work ourselves, I suppose, to some extent, and to see, well, what is it that we're finding inside of this caravan? And I think that's what makes this group of work particularly interesting right now, because when we're socially distanced from each of us, and having to find a way to adapt very quickly to very new conditions. It's that mental attitude, that imaginative attitude, that really is the thing that is going to help us manage it as well as possible. And this idea of the caravan, this little stalwart structure, which defiant against all difficult conditions, and then the imaginative worlds that we create within, I think really make this quite a relevant show and a relevant body of work for what is happening with us right now.